Alright, today we're going to talk about the law of sines, and to start that, we're just going to look at this example. We're going to look at this triangle. We're finding the area of this triangle. So what you're given is the base, which is 8. You're given this side, which is 6.7, and you're given this angle, which is 33 degrees. And so a couple things that we need to be conscious of as we move into this concept of the law of sines is, one, if this angle is L, then that means that the side across from it is little l. So, we use blue. This is going to be little l. And then if this is k, the side across from that is going to be little k. And then, once again, if this is angle j, the side across from that is going to be little j. Okay. So if we want to find the area of a triangle, what we know is that the area of a triangle formula is 1/2 times the base times the height. 1/2 times the base times the height. And so we know the base. The base is 8. What we don't know is the height. That's what we need to figure out. So we'll call this h. And so we'll fill in what we know. Area is, let's see, equal to 1/2 times the base, which is 8, times the height, which we're going to fill this in a little bit here. Let's kind of put a box there. We'll fill that in a little bit. So to figure out the height, we're going to use sine, cosine, or tangent. So this 8 is the entire length. So we're not going to be using that one. What we're going to do is focus on, I'll highlight this triangle here in green. We're going to focus on this green triangle, whoops, right here. And so if we know this angle is 33, we want to find this side. This is opposite. And we know this is 6.7, that's the hypotenuse. If we're dealing with opposite and hypotenuse, that means we're going to be using sine. So let's set up to figure out the height. We're going to go back to, well, we'll use blue here. So sine of 33 degrees equals opposite, which is h, over the hypotenuse, which is 6.7. And so the height, to get the height all by itself, we're going to multiply both sides by 6.7. And so the height ends up being 6.7 times the sine of 33, which is some number. We can plug that in our calculator, and we will eventually, but I wanted to leave it like this for a reason. So we'll put 6.7 times sine of 33. So the area of a triangle, this one's not a right triangle, but what they give us is they give us side, angle, side. So I'll write that side, angle, side. So if you're given side, angle, side on a triangle, you can use this formula now. So instead of 1/2 times base times height, it's still really that, except the height ends up being the one side that's not the base times the sine of the angle. So in general, if we are given, we'll just kind of draw a triangle down below here. Let's say, now this is A, B, and C, so that means that, let's say we're given little b and little c, and we're given angle A. So to figure out the area of this one, the area is going to be 1/2 times the base, which is b, just coincidence there, times c times the sine of angle A, because that gives us the height of this triangle. So this C times sine of A ends up giving us the height of that triangle. So for any triangle where you're given side angle side, this is your general area formula. Okay, so let's look at the next page. And I don't know, let's plug this in just to kind of give us a number here. So it's 1/2 times 8 times 6.7 times the sine of 33. So we'll plug that in. 1/2 times 8 times 6.7 times the sine of 33. I'm going to make sure my calculator's in the right mode. It's in degrees. That's good. So I'll hit enter, and we get about 14.6. So that's our area of our triangle. So the area of this one would be about 14.6 units squared. Oops. Okay, so let's look at the next slide. This one, what I did is I took just a general triangle, A, B, and C, and I set up 3 different area of triangle formulas. So this first one is if we are given angle A and side C and side B. This would be the formula 1/2 times B times C times the sine of A. That's going to give us the height of the triangle. So then the next formula, it's still going to calculate the area, but instead of capital A, little b, and little c, this time, what if they gave you, basically what I'm asking is, what if you knew b, little c, and little a? Well, it's the same formula. It's 1/2 times the one side times the other side times the sine of the angle. And so as long as you're given side angle side on any triangle, you can find the area of that triangle. Likewise, if you're given angle C and then sides A and B, you would just plug it into this formula right here. So there's 3 different formulas you can come up with for finding the area of a triangle, and what we're going to do is use this to find the law of sines. This is going to kind of prove the law of sines. So let's head to the next slide. What we just talked about was all 3 of these equations are equivalent. They all give you the area of this triangle. So what I want to do then is we're going to do some algebra here. We're just going to divide every equation by 1/2. So let's do that. And then we're going to divide every equation by A, by B, and by C as well. So let's start canceling stuff out then. If we divide it by 1/2, the 1/2s are going to cancel out here. If we divide it by A, B, and C, the B's will cancel out, the C's will cancel out, and what we're left with is sine A over little a. Okay, so let's head over to the next equation. The 1/2s cancel out, the A's cancel out, the C's cancel out, and we get sine of B over little b. And then the 1/2s cancel out on this one, the A's cancel out, and the B's cancel out. We're left with sine C over C. So what we did right now is we just proved the law of sines, or we derived it, I guess. We derived the law of sines. So the law of sines is, if you take the sine of an angle over the opposite side, that equals the sine of any other angle over its opposite side. So what? So how can we use that? So, make sure you get this copied down if you're taking notes, and then let's run through an example together. So, let's draw out PQR, and angle P is 32 degrees, angle Q is 115 degrees, and then side P is 5.6 degrees, or sorry, 5.6 units. Okay, so the idea here is we're just going to solve the triangle. Oops. So solve. So that means find everything. So the first thing I think I would do is let's find angle R. That one's going to be the easiest. We know that in any triangle, all three angles have to add up to 180. So 115 plus 32, that's going to be 147. And so we'll just subtract that from 180. We don't need a calculator, I don't think. This will be 33 degrees. So it's almost an isosceles triangle. Okay, so we've got this one's 33 degrees. So now we're going to use the law of sines. I'll switch to red. And so what we can do with the law of sines is we'll do sine of p, which is 32 degrees, over p, which is 5.6. So you're always doing the sine of an angle over its opposite side. And so then we'll do equals, and then this, it really doesn't matter. We'll do 115, but if you wanted to do 33, it really doesn't matter in this case because we have both angles. So we'll do sine of 115 over, and we'll find q. Okay, so it's just a simple ratio problem. So we're going to cross multiply and then solve it for q. So we're going to have q times sine of 32 equals 5.6 times sine of 115. Ooh, sorry about that, that's pretty ugly. And then we'll divide by sine of 32. And we'll get our q. Now, just so you know, the signs do not cancel out here. You actually have to type all of this into your calculator. So we'll do 5.6 times sine of 115, and then that number divided by sine of 32. So on the top, 5.6 times sine of 115, and then divided by sine of 32. Okay, and so that gives us q is about 9.58. So, wonderful. So 9.58. And whatever the units are. Okay, so we figured out q, that's 9.58 about. I guess we could have been consistent. If you want to round it to 9.6, since this is one decimal place, you could have done that as well. Okay, now to find r, let's do law of sines again. We're just going to have to do, so we'll do sine of 32 over 5.6 again. Equals sine of 33 over r. So we're taking this angle, the sine of that, over the opposite side. So let's cross multiply and solve it. So 5.6 times sine of 33 equals r sine 32 divided by sine of 32 and we'll get our answer. So let's type this into the calculator and make sure you put parentheses around the top so that way it does all of those at the same time. So 5.6 times sine of 33 I just didn't take my own advice, so I'll just hit enter, divided by sine of 32. And we get about 5.75 or 5.8. We'll do 5.76 if we round it correctly. So r is going to be 5.76. Alright, so we solved it. We found all of the missing sides and all of the missing angles. Now there are going to be examples where you're given two sides and just one angle. Then what you're going to end up doing, you're going to have to do sine inverse to solve for that angle. You'll see that when you run across those problems. So that's it for law of sines. Hopefully that helps. Good luck on the assignment.